So there we have kind
Mhm.
of a zero shot.
Yeah, so the next, like, kinda level up after zero shot is one shot prompting. So to move on to that, this is this is useful if you need, like, a specific style or format that you wanted to respond with. Um, so in the example right here is like, say that you're kind of drafting a standard format for responding to like complaints, right? For your coffee shop. So you would say like, here's how I want you to respond, and you give it one example of, sorry that you're having this issue. I want to offer you, a coupon for a free coffee next time. Something like that, right? Like I want you to start out with like empathizing with the customer, acknowledging, the issue, and that it'll be corrected, and then offering, some kind of like retribution, right? For it. And you basically have like a template of a complaint response. You give that to the large language model and then say, all right, now I need you to do it for the next 50 in this list. And hopefully, if you're a brand new coffee shop, you don't have 50 customer complaints like the first week that you need to go through. Otherwise, you're probably in trouble. But that's kind of the examples. Like, I'm going to give you the template and I'm going to give it to you one time. And I expect you to follow this format, where the difference is when we get to the next one of like few shot is like you're giving it more room for creativity because you're giving it in several examples. This is, I want you to be kind of rigid in your following a structure. Is
Yeah.
that accurate, Andy? Is that kind of the way that you see it?
Yeah, yeah. You're giving it an example to set the context of what you're looking for. And then
Mhm.
you're asking it to give something similar, complementary, or something uh, contrasting to that particular example. I'll come up on the screen and I'll show an
Yeah.
example of how we can actually put this into practice. So we just did the zero shot, create an opening checklist for a coffee shop.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to go in and we're going to do the one shot technique. So I'm going to go and let's see, where's Copilot? Tell you what, we'll just go to a new page.
This is a good point. While you're
There we go.
while you're bringing that up, from Will, says zero shot in his mind is like basically like the first level, right? You're kind of prompting as if it's Google, like, do this thing for me, And as you kind of mature, I think that's a really good way to do it. Is like, this is my quick off the cuff, and when I start getting into like one shot, that's where I'm starting to learn that like, hey, I can teach it something during this session, right? So
Right. I would agree with that exactly. All right. So let's go in and draft page content. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in what we had before. So like I've entered in the here's the opening checklist for the coffee shop and all of the examples. So
mhm.
are all of the listed items from before. So now I'm going to say um, create a closing checklist for a coffee shop, and then I'm going to tell it to create based off of that. Hold on.
Mhm. So what I would imagine it's probably going to do is it's going to take that opening checklist as an example, and it's going to give you basically the inverse of that. So if you have done these things to open the coffee shop, you would basically undo these things to close the coffee shop. So I imagine it's going to have like almost an opposite of each one of those. That'd be my prediction.
All right, so here's the closing list, and I'll go in and I'll paste back in the opening list. So turn off
Okay.
all the lights and the equipment and any appliances that are not needed overnight.
Which is
Clean
the
the
opposite
coffee
of turning
makers
on
and
all the
espresso
lights.
machines.
Yeah.
Remove any leftover pastries. Restock. Check and refill the milk. Dispose of any leftover coffee or beverages. Check the cash register. Count it. Wipe down the tables. Ensure all employees have clocked out and are ready to leave. lock the doors, turn off the open sign. So it did kind of mirror and contrast what it did on the open. I think it called out a couple of different things. But in this example, we took the opening one and we gave it as context and said, now create the closing checklist for the coffee shop. So that's what a one shot's going to do for you. You're giving it a little bit of a sample, a little bit of data, and you're grounding the language model. You're grounding Copilot with context. And then
Mhm.
if you hear the term grounding, that's what you mean, or that's what it's meant. You are giving context to what you're asking the system to do. You're saying, here's something I need to output that's going to be along the same lines. That
Mhm.
context could be the format and the style that you want to return it in. It could be the business process that you're working with. It could be the tone. It could be the audience. That's what you're kind of grounding that information in. And in our case, it's a checklist. Now we've got an open and a close, and we were
Mhm.
able to get the close based off of using the open. And now that's a one shot prompt.
Yeah. And you can see like the difference here in what Andy did and what I did. He did a few shot, right? So he basically has like everything in the opening checklist has been accounted for in the closing checklist, right? Those were the same length. I did a zero shot right here where I said, just give me a closing checklist. And I didn't tell it what the opening checklist was. So you can see that it's pretty short right here. Like it doesn't have the restocking of the milk and getting rid of like discarding the old milk, stuff like that, that by starting with the opening checklist, Andy has a closing checklist now that actually would be more operationally efficient for the coffee shop because it sets the next day up for success because it has addressed what needs to be opened for the next day, right? So that's like where you can start to hopefully understand that like you're getting a better result using a one shot method if that's what you desire is like, well, I'm opening, I'm closing, I'm going to open the next day. Why don't I give it that context so that I get a better result that actually prepares me better for my next day? And that's really getting to the point of like where these things in a business context kind of help you with business solutions, right? So that's a good example of like the one shot versus the few shot and how the one shot gave us a better example for what we were looking for exactly. Anything else on one shot or you want to move on?
We've got one more, like we'll kind of review this after we go through the next one, which is the few shot technique. I'm going to go back and show